Welcome to the e-commerce podcast with me, your host, Matt Edmondson. Now, this is a show all about helping you deliver e-commerce well. And to do just that today, well, we're doing things a little bit differently. Especially if you're watching the video, you'll notice that there is no one sat beside me. We're going to come to that in just a second. We do have a guest for today's show. Don't panic. It's going to be fine. The reason this one is a little bit differently is because I want to play you the podcast which we recorded live at Sub Summit. So we recorded an episode of the e-commerce podcast live on stage at Sub Summit 2024. It was on the Bold stage. I think you'll hear me say that if I remember rightly. Sponsored by Bold Commerce. Shout out to Jay, who's an absolute legend, who heads up Bold Commerce. We had a great time, and I got to chat with Amelia Kuma. Now, Amelia has been on the show before. In fact, we met at Sub Summit 2023. So we met last year at the Sub Summit show. She came on the e-commerce podcast. She is an absolute legend. We hit it off straight away. Literally, she punched me in the face. But that's another story. You have to listen to the old episode to find out that story. But when we got the chance to do another project, we're both at Sub Summit, we're like, let's, jump on stage and do this. So this is the podcast where Amelia and I are going to talk about, we're going to talk about old school marketing. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to dig into some of the things that maybe are working that maybe you've not thought about in marketing, that, is not the usual AI is going to change my life kind of thing. So we have a phenomenal conversation on the stage at Sub Summit. So we've got that coming up with the wonderful Amelia. So stay tuned for that. But before we get into it, let me just give a shout out to everyone who's listening, especially if you're new. Very warm welcome to you. It's great to have you with us, joining us on the show. I'm trusting you're going to have some fun with it and you're going to learn some lot. We post content every week, e-commerce content. So, keep coming back, keep joining us on this epic journey of e-commerce. Because like you, I'm an e-commerce entrepreneur. I'm just trying to figure this thing out. Now, one of the things I do want to, sort of quick call to action, I suppose. If you are listening to the show and you are an e-commerce owner, or an e-commerce founder. In other words, you run your own e-com business. And I know that there's thousands of you listening to the show that do. I really want to hear from you. We're starting to add a new segment to the podcast, the founders segment, for want of a better expression. And so traditionally, I interview experts like Amelia who come and share their amazing wisdom and knowledge. But we also want to start talking to you guys. And we want to start digging into the founders' stories a little bit. And so if you are running an online business, doesn't matter how big or small it is, whether you're new, whether you've been around for years, whether you think you've got an interesting story, whether you don't, I just want to talk to you. And so there's a chance that we might be able to get you on the show. I'm not promising it for everybody. I just want to put that out there. This is not a promise. But you never know until you get in touch, right? And so we would just genuinely love to hear from you. Come tell your story, come share your secrets, what you've figured out, what you're hoping for, and all that sort of good stuff. Just come share this journey with the rest of us, because it's always better, when we do. And obviously we'll give a shout out to your business and your website at the same time. So if you want to know more about that, just head over to the website, ecommercepodcast.net. I think there's a link which has applied to be on the show on there or something like that. Just fill out the form as much as you can. If there's stuff on there you don't know the answers to, don't panic about it. Just put the information on there. That'll go through to the production team and it will kickstart the whole journey. So that's at ecommercepodcast.net. Of course, if you know anybody else who would make a great guest for the show, again, let us know. We would love to hear from them, especially founders. Experts are great. Referred guests always make the best guests. We've got a list as long as you're on of people wanting to come on the show and episodes waiting to be recorded, which is nice. So we do want to introduce this founders section. So I think I've said enough. Anyway, you get the point, right? You get the point. So, without further ado, here is my conversation live on the Sub Summit stage 2024 with Amelia Kuma. Okay, so welcome to the e-commerce podcast. Great to have you. Great to have my very good friend Amelia. We're here at Sub Summit on the stage sponsored by Bold Commerce. Quick shout out to Bold Commerce. And this is where we met, wasn't it, last year?
This is where we met, yeah.
Well, not on this stage.
Not on this stage. But
we did meet here at Sub Summit. And so When they said, Matt, come back and do a podcast, and they said, would you talk to Amelia? I'm like,
Fuck no.
yeah, no brainer, right? Yeah, I'm not doing that again. No. But no, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
I think you need to get close to your microphone.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Remember, this is a podcast.
I know.
We need microphones.
We do need makeup.
Yeah. Are you doing well?
I'm doing good. Yeah. How are you?
Yeah, really good.
It's a nice sunny day. It's pretty warm.
It is very warm. It's crazy because it's 35 degrees here in Dallas. I don't know what that translates to in Fahrenheit.
Sounds cold.
But in England at the moment it's like 18, and we think it's really warm. So it's twice the temperature, and you're just like, holy moly. So it's nice to be here.
It is
nice to be in Sub Summit. So thank you for the wine, by the way.
Thank you.
Shout out to Skater Girl. So this is a family brand wine.
It is a family brand. That's our old bulldog. She used to ride a skateboard. So
that's so cool. I'll take a
on
photo
her.
of that.
Yeah.
We'll put that on on the show. But thank you for that.
Thank you.
No. Just anybody?
No, really. Thank you.
No one knows why you're bringing me wine.
No. Well, it was for punching you in the face last year.
That's true. You did that.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah. We didn't get that on video though.
Unfortunately.
No. And why did you
could do it
punch me in the
again.
face?
It's something you said.
There's so many people in our audience going, "Go, Amelia, do it again."
God, one of those reach out for the hug.
Yeah.
The shake hand. Yeah, boom.
The right hook thing was good fun. So last time you were on the show, we were talking about content, talking about creating content and the crazy things that you had going on that were working for you. So let's evolve that conversation a little bit, if we can. So you are, just a quick recap, right? You are with PetPlate. It says here in my notes, you're a software engineer turned growth marketer with a 6-year track record of building and leading performance marketing teams for both high growth D2C brands and B2B SaaS startups. That's a bit of a mouthful.
I know. Thanks, ChatGPT.
It just sounds like you're really busy.
Busy, for sure.
And so we were talking about this, weren't we, on the last show? We were talking about all the, how you do marketing, the video content especially. I have to say, it's still one of the most downloaded episodes.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
No,
That's fun.
Yeah. I think it's because you were telling everybody you punched me in the face.
Yeah, probably. And they had to listen to it on like half speed, and so engagement.
Just listen to it again.
Yeah,
That was really good. That part. So let's evolve that, because we were talking before the Sub Summit. So we're here at Sub Summit in Dallas, all about subscription commerce, and we were talking before about what we should talk about, right? And we came up with this idea about talking about old school marketing. So let's explain that. Why did we come up with that as an idea?
There's all these new channels popping up, whether it's TikTok or, different types of, short form video things. And I think, as privacy regulations, tracking stuff starts to get a little bit more scrutinized, Facebook's losing the ability to perfectly one-to-one match, track you across browsers, and not to mention CPMs are just absolutely skyrocketing. I mean, those channels are so saturated. People
crazy.
are still struggling to figure out how to perfectly, market TikTok ads in particular. People are looking for ways to diversify their media mix. And, obviously Facebook and Google, they're really easy. Obviously, they've got great tracking. Everything's in platform. They own all of the data. You have your pixel on their site, things like that. But I think the biggest thing is it's really easy to get started. You can be a brand and be like, all right, we've got a $5,000 a month budget, and we're going to install the pixel. We're going to create an ad account, and there we go. So it's really easy. But, the out-of-home marketing, whether it's direct mail, billboards, even now these buses and stuff that people are, sort of plastering with their brands. Things like CTV, things like linear, connected TV, linear, more cable focused.
Yeah, sorry, let's just pause there, because I appreciate that whilst we're here in Sub Summit, people might know what you're talking about. But given that quite a lot of people in England listen to this show, when you say linear and CTV, just explain what that means.
Yeah, so CTV is connected TV. It's basically streaming, so it's closer to digital. So you're watching something, and that video feed is actually like streaming live. And the cool thing about that is it, again, allows you to, at least on the data side and the actual platform side, track the interaction. So how much are people listening? Are they skipping ads? Things like that. Can they skip ads? Linear is more cable, right? So it's typical broadcast television. So your sports channels, things like that. So not children's TV, but connected TV and linear. And usually they're run together. You might, treat them like podcasting or streaming. You're going to have a breakout in terms of budget. But channels like that.
Okay. So you've been playing around with these a little bit, haven't you?
Yeah.
This sort of, because, like you say, with Facebook, I remember a few years ago, we were getting a return on ad spend 14, 15, 16. We were like, this is amazing. And now the guys are saying to me, man, we're getting a return on ad spend, I don't know, what we've got at the moment. Let's say it's 3, and everyone's going, this is really great, because it's above 2. Mm-hmm. So we know that those channels are harder to get the return on ad spend. So you guys have been playing around with some of this old school marketing. Now, and this is why I love it, and I've mentioned this before on the show, that actually, for me, marketing is not about the silver bullet. And you get asked this all the time, right? What's the latest marketing thing I should do? And it's never the silver bullet. It's all about old school principles and getting those right and building on those. And then maybe the silver bullet will help you. But if you just rely on TikTok shops, which I think is what it is now, you may do well, but in 6 months' time, it'll all have changed because marketers will have come in and screwed it up.
Absolutely. Right? I mean, and not to mention that, I mean, how many brands listening to this have had their ad account shut down, right? Like that sort of stuff happens all the time when 70% of your revenue, you know, on a daily basis is coming through that, and you have to fight through different regulations or different changes, or, you know, so help me, the pixel gets removed, you know, because they update their, you know, conversion API. You know, what you have to have backup plans, and you know, you can't rely on those 2 channels, and you have to start scaling to other things. And so, you know, again, the traditional media, whether it's CTV or you know, linear or direct mail or things like that, they're harder to get into. They're a little harder to scale. You know, again, measuring the direct ROI, it takes a little bit of time. But you know, not only are those brands flocking to those channels, but because of, you know, needing to diversify, but the measurement solutions around those channels has gotten really, really good. And I don't think a lot of people know that. You know, historically it's promo codes, vanity URLs, again, with whatever you're tracking, and then QR codes came in, and those are great. They're an extra sort of like touch point where somebody can measure, attach your UTMs to them. But pixel-based solutions, IPs, view-through rates, looking at these sorts of things. There's a lot of different methodologies that these channels, whether it's from certain companies that have developed them around them or whatnot, but they can be treated and they can be measured similar to digital. It's never going to be perfect, right? Again, these things happen offline, but a lot of people don't know that you can have a set of sophisticated technology for measurement around some of these offline channels, and that's what's really exciting.
It's fascinating, isn't it, that they've managed to do that?
It is.
So like you say, the reason why a lot of people don't do it is it wasn't measurable. Whereas, you know, you could say, well, in Facebook, if I put a pound or a dollar in, I'm going to get $10 out, right? So if I put a pound into direct mail, how do I know what I'm getting out?
Yeah.
And so we've tried for years to sort of be able to measure that. Never really been able to do it that well. I remember it's going back. My first direct mail I ever did, I thought I was an absolute genius. I went to like a wholesaler and I bought a lot of forks, like a knife and fork, just the fork. And I wrote a letter and I sellotaped the fork to the letter, basically saying, you pick the restaurant and I'll pick up the bill. And I don't know why I decided to add a fork to the letter. But you know what? It worked, because we got a lot of people calling. This was, you know, email was around, but that was about it. But on that direct mail campaign, it was so successful. It was unbelievable.
I believe it.
Yeah. I spent a fortune on forks.
Yeah. Why did you do it? Oh, you wanted to add a couple cents to the amount it was going to cost you to ship. I mean, but it is things like that, right? And last time we talked about ad creative and how important, you know, like, again, creating sort of like a video ads funnel is, and modularizing that ad creative. But, you know, I think the other principle to that is again, like, be unique, try to stand out. And so attaching a fork, you know, we talk about like this concept of like 3-second hooks, right? If you can get somebody to watch the first 3 seconds of a video, you're gonna have 70% higher likelihood of them watching the rest of the video. And you'll see, like, you know, TikTok's really good at this, right? You're gonna watch a video, and the first part, it's almost, sometimes they're almost like controversial, right? You're like, why is this guy smashing an egg on the, you know, on the ground, right? It gets your attention. You start to watch it, and so when somebody gets a, you know, a direct mail piece with a fork, right? Even if it's not, you know, I don't care what you're selling, but you're like, wait, what? And just that alone, like, grabbing somebody's attention, especially in this like attention deficit economy, is so critical.
So what's your favorite, if I can put it this way, at the moment, what's the channel that excites you the most, which I would call old school marketing channels? I
mean, it's still new, right? Because like my answer is podcasting. I think that
Good answer.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of really interesting stuff going on there. I think, you know, sure, it's not, you know, at its peak that it was during COVID. I think more so the channel's starting to mature. But again, the measurement technologies behind it, they're really, really advanced. They're coming up fast. And I mean, when you talk about looking for new incremental audiences that you can't hit on Facebook, or, that they're not in the, place and environment where they're ready to convert because they're just scrolling through 10,000 other ads, podcasting is really, really unique because it's an influencer, right? If somebody comes and listens to your podcast, sure, they want to listen to the content, but they trust you and they like to have, they like to hear what you have to say. So when, Andrew Huberman, who, is one of the biggest podcasts, when he comes on and he talks about ice baths and how incredible has been for, raising his baseline dopamine levels. And then he mentions an ice bath company, to the people that listen to him or the people that listen to you, they treat you like a friend, right? They're an authority source. And so when he tells you this is awesome, you're like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. And I want that. And so I think that influence, because podcasting really is it's sort of a form of influencer marketing, just in a different medium. It holds that other channels don't. I mean, and even like direct mail or CTV, right? Those are they're commercials. And I think podcasting, other than the DAI and the programmatic stuff, which has its place, that's more classic advertising. But when you do host-read ads and, Athletic Greens comes on, and again, Joe Rogan, whoever it is talking about him, you get that, like third-party validation. I want to buy this. If it helped him, it's going to help me.
Well, they call it the Tim Ferriss effect, don't they? Mitson & Main was a brand. They're based in Dallas, I think. They've got a store somewhere in Dallas. I've got a couple of their shirts. They're a clothing brand. And there's a friend of mine called Brett Curry. He does a podcast. And he's just interviewed the founder of Mitson & Main. And they were a really struggling brand. And they sent some stuff out to Tim Ferriss. And they sponsored one of the podcasts because Tim really liked their stuff. And it's just transformed their brand overnight.
There's so many brands that have scaled. Like, again, AG1 is even one of those. They started off on podcasting. They took a big bet. Even when they were, starting to ramp up, pixel-based technology for podcasting wasn't even around. But there's another company called Fume. And podcasting is really interesting, too, because they're like, whether you're doing CBD or you're doing alcohol or any other sort of regulatory industry that's really hard to run on Facebook and TikTok and things like that, those companies are investing heavily in podcasting. And if you do it right, it can be both direct response and awareness, right? So you get the awareness. Maybe people aren't, ready to click, but they're hearing the name. They're hearing it from the people that they respect. When you attach promo codes, when you attach vanity URLs, when you do pixel-based attribution, and you have that great, again, testimonial from this person you respect, it can also be a really, really great direct response leverage.
So that's really. So you're talking in podcasting. You're talking about actually sponsoring or running ads on someone's podcast, not actually hosting your.
No, I mean, and that's another really, really great strategy. And I think that a lot of companies are starting to do that. I think the production costs associated with that are really hard. I mean, it's just hard to get, it's not hard to start a podcast. It's hard to get any downloads and scale that up. But actually running ads on podcasts is a huge channel that, again, people are starting to think about. And I think, when you're thinking about, all right, we start with Facebook, we start with Google. Now, maybe we do TikTok. I think podcasting is sort of next, even before you do CTV or linear or out of home, things like that. Again, it's harder to get into because it is influencing, right? You have to connect with that host and all of those sorts of things. But it's a really, really great channel for that initial scale. And there's, again, I think the thing that I have a lot of conversations with brands about is, people think, oh, we're going to have to, invest $100,000, right, to see any sort of thing. There's a lot of really interesting ways, again, with this advanced measurement types of things, where you can test it. You can spend $5K and you can actually see the direct conversions. You can spend, and you start to sort of scale up from there. So, it's really awesome. And I think, again, the influencer sort of captivating third-party validation that you don't get a lot from other channels.
No, well, if you say influencer marketing, everybody thinks Instagram.
Exactly.
Right? I've got to have an Instagram person with 20,000 followers to start with this. But actually what you're talking about here is podcasting, where the costs of advertising are actually really quite low in reality.
Yeah. CPMs are higher than Facebook for sure, but it's a higher intent audience, right? They're listening, and sure, maybe they're driving in the car or doing other things sometimes, but again, they're listening because they respect what this person has to say, whereas they're not just scrolling endlessly.
Yeah, and the thing I like about it with podcasting is if people are listening, they rarely do they sort of skip forward the 5 or 10 seconds. They do listen as long as it's an interesting ad. And you hear actually now a lot of podcasters read out the ads.
Yep.
Right. So if I was doing it on the show, we're on the stage and it's
sponsored by Bold Commerce.
Sponsored by Bold. So bringing you the eCommerce podcast sponsored by Bold Commerce. Well, that's an interesting thing for me to say. But if I said to you something like, Bold Commerce is great because of X, Y, and Z, and I tried it on this, that, and the other. Well, everyone's listening now, aren't they? And so getting the host to talk about maybe their experience or why it's good
Exactly.
is the best way.
Exactly.
So if someone is listening to the show, right, and they go, well, this is an interesting thing with podcasting, never thought about it, bit out of the box. We always have these out of box conversations. How would you get started on something like that? Where would you begin?
There's a lot of companies out there where you can get started pretty free or pretty easily. Again, more of like a self-service. So Acast, I think they're one of the largest publishers / agencies for podcast advertising in the world. You can, if you spend $25,000 over the course of a couple months, you can basically do like your own, host read ads. You send in the prompt, you tell them what you want to talk about, and then again, they do the measurement and all of that sort of stuff. So there's solutions like that to get started. I think the most classic way, and this is still, you would do this for CTV, you would do this for direct mail. You got to sort of work with an agency because podcasting, again, it's like, it's you. How are they going to get in contact with you? They've got to reach out. They've got to get to know you. Maybe you're represented by somebody. So I think agencies are a really great route, and that's the route that I've historically gone whenever I've tested out the channel, because they can negotiate those lower CPMs. They can make it worth your while. They're going to make sure that everything's delivered on what you paid for, which is really, really important, right? It's not a visual channel. It's audio, and so things like making sure that the host didn't say this bad word or whatever it is, right, is super critical. So I would say, either sort of use one of those, self-service types of platforms to sort of just get started. Again, make sure that you have the measurement baked in, or talk to an agency and run some small tests. But there's a lot of ways, again, you don't have to spend $100,000 a month. You can spend, maybe it's $10,000, right? And I know that sounds like a lot, but if you're running any test on any channel, you better not be spending less than $5,000. You're not going to get statistical significance in order to actually validate whether this channel has, traction or not.
So this is not a strategy maybe for someone who's just starting out in e-com. This is, like you say, do your Google, do your Meta, get all the standard stuff in order, and then try your podcasting. But you're going to need a bit of budget to play around with it.
Yeah, you are. And again, I think with any channel. But I will say that, I know a lot of brands that they start on podcasting. They know the impact of it. They know that that's where the audience they want to reach is. They know that they're going to be able to convert them at a higher rate because, again, it's coming from that validation of that host. And so there are some that do. That's their main channel. And again, it might just take time. But you can't go up on Facebook and, you're not going to expect, again, like a $10 CPA or anything. Right away, you've got to sort of scale and let the channel do its work. But it's a great channel for that sort of next step. When you're looking at diversifying your media, mix, and you're trying to figure out other opportunities for scale, I think I've seen it time and time and again be that sort of like next one. It's semi-offline. It's a little bit out of home. It's also reaching the people when they're sort of in the intent phase.
So how would you? So you've got your $10,000. You've gone with some of these sort of self-service agency type things. But if you're setting up doing podcast ads for your e-com business or your subscription business, how would you set them up? How would you measure, and how would you know at the end of the month whether this is a goer or not? Or have you done it?
Yeah. So again, pixel-based solutions for podcast advertising exist. It's different than, again, like a Facebook or whatever. They can't track you across the browser. The way that podcasts are actually distributed is very unique. So RSS feed, really simple syndication. That's where, again, you get those updates on new episodes. When you click play on an episode, for instance, you open Spotify and I'm listening to your podcast, a lot of people think that you're streaming that episode. That's not the case. That audio file is actually being locally downloaded to your device. And that's what makes podcast advertising and the tracking part of it really difficult. I sort of use the example, like it's like Google Docs versus Word. Right? If I share a Word doc with you and I make a change, that change is not going to be reflected. If I share a Google doc and I make a change, that change is going to be reflected. So podcasting is more of like the Word doc. And again, that's the same for, let's say, linear and some of these other channels. It's more static. So basically what happens is that a tracking pixel is installed inside of the RSS feed, and when somebody clicks play right before that episode is downloaded, it actually redirects and pings that attribution provider's server and grabs the IP. In typical channels like Facebook and stuff, they have a lot of data to do measurement, right? Like you have a Facebook profile. That's one of the biggest things that gave Facebook a leg up. Like even compared to Google, they know your friends. They know, before iOS 14.5, they knew where you were shopping. They knew what you were buying. They knew what you like, things like that. And so they own all of that data. And then when it comes to matching that back to the person who actually converted on the website, they obviously have their pixel, and that matching is really easy. So for podcasting, again, it's almost decentralized. That audio file gets downloaded to your device. They know who downloaded, and they know the IP. And that's the main point of data that you can use to do that matching. And then again, you have a pixel installed on the person's website. So there's a lot of different attribution providers out there. And again, they all have different methodologies. It's real. Podcasting is going through a similar sort of evolution in terms of measurement, like CTV went through. So Tatari's they completely changed the game for CTV. Everything used to be measured again via promo codes and vanity URLs, very, very low, sort of like entry in terms of like actually calculating that. It's something in podcasting. It's only 30% of people actually use promo codes when they're checking out if they've heard it from a podcast. That means 70% of people that were influenced by Andrew Huberman didn't use the promo code, so that goes unattributed. So Tatari has some really, really sophisticated methodologies for CTV where they can do sort of like look through rates. They do correlation. They can do incrementality. We don't have to nerd out and go.
You are properly nerding out anyway.
So again, you work with an attribution provider, and you get those pixels installed. You make sure that whatever show or publisher you're working with that owns the show, they have the prefix installed, and then they're able to do that match rate or that match back. And so again, it's not going to be perfect. There's there are things that are called like noisy IPs, which basically it's an IP. So you're listening in your car or in Times Square. If you're listening and other people on that same IP, they can't do that matching because who knows if you were the reason that you converted or not. So there's some modeling that's involved and things like that, but it's really sophisticated, and it allows you to directly see, again, how many visitors went to my website, what was that visitor to impression rate, what was that conversion rate. So it's sort of these companies are bringing podcast advertising to the digital space and giving them an experience that digital marketers expect. Because I, for instance, never bought on podcasts before the last couple of years because I refuse to just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, right? And if we're talking about spending, again, even $50,000 on a couple month test, right? Like if I can't measure it properly, that's going to come back on me. And so it wasn't until these, again, technology sort of started to evolve where you're like, all right, I can see those real-time metrics. I can optimize in real time. And there's so many brands that I've talked to where they're like, same sort of story, right? We were able to see the incremental impact, the net new audience that we were able to reach, and we were able to measure that in real time.
Fantastic. So you've got podcasting. Mm-hmm. What else is on your list?
I would say sort of next, again, like direct mail might come a little bit before podcasting. There's some really interesting things you can do with direct mail, again, similar to the IP stuff. So if you have your pixel on, a pixel on site, or you're using Shopify, you can almost like pass back those IPs to like a direct mail or a data partner, and then they can do some like I call like denoising, and they basically grab the residential IP. So we did a lot of retargeting from direct mail, where either, again, we were passing back, email addresses if we had them from people who had visited the website but didn't convert, or we were passing back IPs. This data partner, again, is like, hey, this is who that person is, this is where they live, and then we would send them that. And that works really well. And you might even do that sometimes before, at least from a remarketing standpoint, before you do podcast advertising. But direct mail is awesome. And again, if you can make the creative, like, interesting, and the offer is compelling, those sorts of things work. I think a lot of people think, they throw their QR code on, they have their little, tagline, and then, a discount. And of course that's going to fall flat on its face. And I'm not saying attach a fork or, attach human-grade dog food to every single direct mail piece, but you can do some really interesting stuff. I mean, even handwritten letters. There's some technologies that are companies out there that, like, they've got,
Oh, have you seen the one?
Yes, yes, It's awesome.
Incredible.
It's incredible, right? And sure, we could say, like, sort of taking the authenticity away from that, but if you get a letter, right, like Summit gave us a letter, right? And it was written by Lauren, and I read the whole thing, and I was like, "Well, that's so cute, right?" Like,
and it wasn't just a line; it was like there was a paragraph.
A paragraph, right? So if it's a letter from a founder, or blah blah blah, you can make it interesting. You can bring back that authenticity and not be like, "Hey, I'm just spamming your house with other shit." I think there's some really great stuff that can work. So I would say, again, that's a great channel to test. It works really, really well from a remarketing standpoint, especially if you can have a more enticing offer. And then, again, CTV and linear, I think, are really, really great channels, especially for a certain level of scale. The difficulty, and that's why it's sort of above, in terms of, next steps above podcasting, is that, usually, most brands want to do like a big commercial. They're gonna, it's gonna be a huge budget, $100,000 just to film it, right? And I actually think that I've seen a lot of success taking an opposite approach. If you're, almost like applying the UGC style TikTok ads to these, and I've even watched a lot of ads where, you would think like I'm watching it on my TV or my computer and I want the whole screen. Like any brand person is gonna be like, we need to make sure all the pixels are lined up. Even just ads that are literally vertical, right? They look like they were taken by your phone, and there's those two black bars. Those work really, really well, and it actually gives you a lot of room on the right-hand side to do like other copy and like that QR code and stuff. So I think that there are ways to get into the channel without spending $200,000 to record some sort of commercial. And if you just sort of apply the methodology from a creative standpoint that you do on Facebook and TikTok and things like that.
That's really powerful. So, I mean, let's go back, because in all of these things, we sort of whistle past it a little bit. We're making the assumption that you're using the same, you said this at the start, you still need the hook, you still need the compelling copy. The ads on the podcast need to be compelling. They need to be authentic and different, I suppose, in many ways. You know, they need to have that hook. How are you finding the challenge, you know, moving from, say, the Facebook way of writing ads and doing ads to taking those principles to, say, direct mail? How are you finding that shift and that challenge?
It's difficult for sure, and I think working with brand teams to help them understand where again you still need to, because again, you know, larger brand teams, right? They come from the traditional sides of marketing. Direct response is relatively new. Digital marketing is relatively new in the scope of marketing in general, and so, you know, sort of convincing them that we need to take this more direct response, low fidelity, again, almost low fidelity type of approach to these things can be hard. But I think sometimes you just need to step back a little bit. And, you know, what I always do is every single, you know, whether it's an ad I get on Facebook, I record it, or, you know, a direct mail piece. Like I have a whole box of just like old direct mail stuff that I got. And, you know, I've gone through it maybe once or twice. It's probably like the, you know, the plastic bags you keep under your sink that you think you'll eventually use. But, you know, get inspiration from other companies. Talk to, you know, there's a lot of direct mail companies out there that are really experienced in the creative side. Talk to other brands, see what they've done. But I think, again, you just can't expect to like put something up and have it convert, right? You've got to be creative. And I think, you know, again, save time on like spending a lot of budget on like the most beautifully designed thing or the, you know, most, you know, cool commercial, right? If you're going to do CTV, and use that time and that money in actually developing something, and maybe test a couple concepts out, right? Like I know that a lot of the new direct mail companies, you can almost A/B test stuff, right? So you can have 4 different types of direct mail pieces. And
that was going to be one of my questions, actually, because if I put out a Facebook ad, right, I know instantly whether that's working, and I can split test, and within 5 minutes I can go, this ad, well, you know, more than 5 minutes, but you know what I mean? Very quickly you can test and you can see the data. How do you even think about something like that with, say, the podcasting or the direct mail? You've got to think beyond the 5 minutes, I suppose. You
do. I mean, there's definitely longer tails in terms of, again, when those people are going to be exposed and when they're going to convert. But again, podcasting, that exists. You can see in real time how many people listened to the episode, how many people visited the site. And so, again, that technology, and same thing for CTV. You can see in real time, maybe it's not the first second or whatever, but you can see all of those things like relatively new or relatively real time. I think direct mail, I have seen a platform that allows that. You know when they got delivered. Obviously, we don't have cameras in the people's houses, so you don't know when they saw them, but you can, again, correlate that back to how many visitors that went to the site. So I think you just have to be a little bit more patient and understand that, again, you know, we need statistical significance in order to make any decisions. And so, you know, even if I've spent $200 a day on a Facebook ad, I can know, you know, in real time whether that ad's going to continue to perform or not. I don't think it's the same way with direct mail. I think it's closer to the same way with CTV and podcasting and some of these other semi-offline channels. And even like billboards and stuff, right? Like there's a lot of really cool stuff. There's this company called AdQuick, and they're kind of like the Zillow for out of home. And they do a lot of this pixel-based IP stuff. You have their pixel on their site, and there's areas where they can almost like ping a cell phone, so they know when you walk by it. And even that's like crazy. These cars, you know, or these vans that they can do the same sort of thing. So, I think, again, it's not ever going to be the same. Again, it is happening offline, so there is a longer sort of time between being exposed and then actually being able to track that event. But those channels are moving in that direction, and a lot of them are so much further along than people think.
So if you're starting out, right? I always like to ask this question because I appreciate people listening to the show at very different stages of their journey. But if you're starting out, how does this apply? What would your advice be to a startup?
Starting out, just running ads?
Just starting out their e-com business. You know, they're maybe turning over 100, 200 grand a year, a small company that's just started.
It's a great question. I think we actually did a fun little one. You gave me some companies before. You were like, how would you market this? There was like a krill.
That's right.
Yeah. I think a lot of people try to go not too brand heavy, but too high level. You look at, you know, things like maybe it's the farmer's dog or maybe it's Athletic Greens, and you look at their messaging and you're like, I love this, that resonates. We're going to take that, feed it into ChatGPT, and we're going to come up with something beautiful like that. The thing that, and it's really good to look at, competition, even adjacent companies. What you have to understand is that brands like that are at such a different scale. They've already done the legwork in terms of awareness, so they can throw out that really high level brand messaging. I saw Viore billboard the other day, and it was like, where people go to live free or something like that, right? Like, and sure, it sounds beautiful. And if you're a marketer, you're like, why didn't I come up with that, elegant phrase? What the heck does that tell you? It doesn't tell you anything. And so there's so many companies that sort of try to start out a little too broad, especially when it comes to that messaging. And I'm not saying like, just throw promo codes and discounts at people's faces, but I always like to think about the problem that somebody's experiencing. So in the krill oil, right, it was a...
Oh, the vegan omega-3.
Instead of taking it from fish, right? Like we get it from krill or something like
algae.
that. Algae.
I should have bought you some.
You should have. It's good. But it would be. You could come up with a lot of really interesting things. Again, understanding the problem. What is the problem with the fish oil, right? Maybe it's a little more expensive because of this. Maybe it has that fishy smell, So understand those like niche pain points and then try to come up with marketing. And, again, it all sort of starts with the copy and then the creative sort of comes and follows it after. But I mean, I can say the classic, like interview your customers and things like that. And that's all great. I think if you were going to do that, you have to ask them a little bit more like broad stuff, right? Like why were you doing this? What were you doing before? What was the biggest pain point? And you start to like learn things about those. So I think, again, start small, go niche, and find that, like, if you identify, again, maybe for the krill thing, it's like this krill oil now that's omega-3 doesn't taste like fish. Double down on that, right? That is so compelling. And, sure, not everybody is going to feel the same way, and it's not going to convince everybody to go and convert, but that, 5% of people, that they're going to convert when they hear that. And that's how you sort of start. And then you find out, find other value props or other pain points to sort of scale from there.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So in closing, what are you most excited about over the next year in all of this?
I mean, I think measurement's going to get better for all of these channels. I think that, cookies, they're going away.
Oh, not the biscuits. Okay,
Yeah. Not the biscuits. I found my answer. Cookies are going away. Cookies are being deprecated. They were supposed to deprecate this year. They were supposed to deprecate last year. They're actually getting pushed back again. Eventually, they will.
They will go.
They absolutely will. And so it's really important for companies, whether you're a provider or you're a brand, to start, thinking about solutions around that. I think what that does, and going back to like, the efficacy and the potential of these traditional channels. Again, everybody, you think about podcasting versus Facebook, and of course go to Facebook first, right? Like they've got really great attribution, they've got great measurement solutions, they have access to a lot of data. That stuff is going to start to go away. And so the expectation of being able to match perfectly one-to-one on a channel like Facebook, on Google and stuff, is that expectation is going to start to lower. I mean, even right now, the amount of modeling, the amount of double counting and stuff that's happening in those channels is just outrageous. Use a multi-touch attribution provider, right? But I think that brings a huge opportunity at sort of leveling the playing field for all of these other channels that have, again, sort of been forgot about and thought of as, something that won't work for your brand because they don't have perfect measurement solutions. Not only is that measurement for those channels going to get better because, again, cookies are going away, IPs, they're never going to go away, right? You can always do that sort of tracking. Facebook's going to have to start relying on more, again, almost like archaic methods of attribution. And so I think, again, the sort of scrutiny that these channels are going to receive or are going to, have been getting is going to start to lower. And they're going to, again, have more of an equal playing field. Does that answer your question?
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? What are you most excited about? Cookies going.
Cookies going away. Yeah, I just think it's a huge opportunity for all these other channels. I mean, and who knows what's going to happen with TikTok and things like that. But I think, there is a huge push. The UK and places like that, GDPR is big. It's always, or it's been around for a long time. The US is starting to sort of, push towards that direction. There are other ways to track and to do measurement without anonymous data or whatever, identifiable data.
Which means there's opportunity.
Yep.
And wherever there's opportunity, you can do some good stuff, can't you? It's rather than crying over spilt milk.
Yep.
Just go, there's another opportunity to do something different. Yeah. But it always stresses to me, Amelia, the importance of gathering everybody's email address and being really nice to them.
Always.
The best kind of attribution ever. Have I got your email address? Yes. And am I nice to you? Yes. Okay, I'll be all right. Listen, I loved it. Thank you for doing this here at SubSummit. And always nice to chat to you. Always nice to sit in front of a microphone. Yeah. And thanks for not punching me in the face this time.
Well,
the night's still early. Thanks, Amelia.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
What do you think? Great episode. Great conversation with Amelia. Amelia, thanks again for coming on. You are such a legend. Such a legend. So that's it for today's show. Make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from, because, as I say, we've always got more episodes lined up. I don't want you to miss any of them. And in case no one has told you yet today, let me be the first. You are awesome. Yes, you are. Created awesome. It's just a burden you have to bear. I've got to bear it. Amelia has to bear it. You've got to bear it as well. It's just the way it is. Now, this show is produced by Pod Junction, the amazing, beautiful, wonderful team that makes this show possible, with Sadaf Bain on Joan Prisk. What utter legends. The theme music was written by Josh Edmondson. And as I said, if you'd like to see the transcripts and all the show notes and all that sort of good stuff, just head over to the website, ecommercepodcast.net. Search for this episode. With all of its links. You get links through to Amelia. It will link through to SubSummit if you want to go in 2025. There's a strong chance I'm going to be there. I've been invited back. Not officially, I mean, well, I suppose, I don't know. Anyway, go check out SubSummit, subsummit.com. You're not going to want to miss 2025. But yeah, that's it from me. That's it, obviously, from Amelia. But have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. I will see you next time. Bye for now.